The climate zonation can be modelled by plotting what we call climatic dependent indicators, the limestones and the coals and glacial related rocks and say evaporites like salt and so on. You plot the distribution of these. I've only shown coal and reefs here. The reefs are in stars and the coal is in diamonds. Coral reefs only occur between, say, 20 to 30 degrees north and south of the equator. So you would expect that limestone coral reef data would plot and straddle the equator. And this is precisely what this shows. And similarly, the coal occurs from the equator to sort of more temperate zones. And while it's not immediately obvious here, when you rotate it, you can see a little bit better. What the data also shows is there is a shift in the data. There is a northward shift in the data. It still parallels the equator, but there's a shift in the data, and you can explain this by, at this time, there was the Permian was quite a major ice age over 10, 15 million years, and that was a permanent ice sheet in the southern hemisphere, as distinct from the northern hemisphere where we had these inland seas, the Tethys Sea in particular, this one, stretching all the way from the equator all the way up across the pole and also over the other side. So you had this potential for this warm equatorial currents to migrate north around the pole, melt the ice caps, and so you just simply get a seasonal ice cap developed similar to the Arctic ice sheet at present. Hence a much smaller ice cap in the northern hemisphere and a shift in these climate zones. We're just coming to the bit that you're all probably waiting for with bated breath. Why, how does all this occur? And what I'm about to show you is speculation, because this question has never been required to be asked. As you can appreciate, if you're led to believe that we have a static radius Earth, we live in Terra Firma Earth, there's no need to ask the question as to how could it possibly expand, where would all this material come from. Hence, there's only a handful of researchers throughout the world that have even bothered to question this. What I've shown here, I'll leave it up to you to read it. Modern technology is such now that we can accurately measure the dimensions of the Earth from satellite laser ranging and the various other techniques, and also measure the plate motion, the migration of the continents on a yearly basis, down to sub-centimetre levels, accuracies. This has been going on since about 1976, but it wasn't until 1993 when they had enough ground-based stations available throughout the world to be able to use this information, this 17 years worth of information, to calculate a radius of the Earth. And what they found, as you can see there, they found that the Earth was expanding over this 17-year time period. The Earth was expanding by 18 millimetres per year, and my calculations are 22. So when you take into consideration the error factor, which is about 3 or 4 millimetres, it's pretty well spot on. NASA was spending, at that time, NASA was spending something like $500 million per year to prove that the Earth, well, not prove, but independently prove that plate tectonics was the way to go. And so, as the last statement maintains, that this was basically considered an error, and they recommended this be restricted to 0 because this is closer to the true situation than an average of 18 millimetres per year. So in other words, they were not anticipating the Earth to expand. These measurements are extremely sophisticated mathematics and statistics taken from over 600 ground-based stations from around the world. And these are all fed into a supercomputer in Paris and spat out the other end. And if you delve deeper into their literature, you'll come across modifications, little tweaks to the mathematical formula to eliminate this error. So they weren't They didn't even suspect that the Earth was expanding. So basically now when I get questions on, yes, but NASA is measuring the size of the Earth and it's showing that it's not expanding, when you go into their website you will see that the mean radial increase in radius is less than 1 millimetre. It's just purely simply a manipulation of mathematics. I don't know if there's any mathematicians here, but you give a mathematician or a geophysicist or a physicist a set of data and he'll manipulate it to whatever you want. It's true. Then we're posed with the question, okay, the Earth is increasing, the information suggests it's increasing, so is it an increase in mass, or is it a constant mass and an increase in, say, density, for instance? To cut this one short, the top two curves are a constant mass scenario, and it would suggest that during the pre-Cambrian, the very primitive Earth, say density and surface gravity were extremely high, which is extremely unlikely. And these figures, say 15 times the present, 15 to 20 or so times the present values, these just do not occur in the solar system, elsewhere in the solar system today. So this is just pure mathematical manipulation of the radius data and the radius formula that I showed you, certainly the graph that I showed you early on. So we're faced with the suggestion that increase in Earth radius is caused by an increase in mass.